All right, we're all set. We're streaming live. So just give everyone a few moments to join here on Zoom and everywhere else that you're joining us from. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Media Gel podcast. I'm your host, Guillermo Bravo. Today, we'll be covering women in cannabis, marketing to women by women with our two special guests today. First, I have Jamie Evans. Jamie Evans is the founder of Herb Som, which is a culinary meets cannabis blog and lifestyle brand that focuses on the gourmet side of the cannabis industry. She's a two-time published author and founder CEO of Herb C, the nation's first French-inspired cannabis-infused sparkling wine brand. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me. And hello to all the viewers and listeners.
And next up, we have Nurit Raphael, who is the founder of Ona Life. Ona Life is an only in Marin County boutique cannabis concierge and delivery service. Nurit and Ona have earned the 2018 Green State Cannabis Award from the San Francisco Chronicle. And today she continues to work tirelessly in the community, hosting educational and wellness events designed to destigmatize cannabis. Welcome to the show, Nurit.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you as well. Let's first kick it off. Nurit, what really inspired you to create your brand?
Ona was created really back in 2014, which was a completely different playing field at the time. You're looking at Prop 215, which was like a collective law. So when I, jumped into the industry, I did a lot of research and I would order delivery to my house.
Yeah.
And I really started to notice just the way the services were, like this kind of, grungy guy would show up to my house with like a brown bag that was like rolled down like a little 40 almost, and kind of like looking around to make sure nobody saw this guy do the exchange with me. It didn't feel very elevated. And I'm kind of the type of girl that shops at Intermix or Nordstrom's, Bloomingdale's. Like I really like my elevated experience. So I really noticed this gap in the market of being able to deliver to people like myself. So I basically built Ona off of this gap in the market and something I know I would want to shop at personally. And then when I did that, it really spoke to the Marin moms.
Yeah. So I guess that's the kind of the follow-up here is, who is your brand speaking to?
Yeah. So our brand really speaks to women, but at the same time, it speaks to the whole family. So as much as Ona is this like elevated brand, you're having this great experience, you're now sharing it with your sister or your brother or your uncle. And so it opens the market up to the whole family, which is really amazing.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, what better way to experience cannabis than with your entire family? Is it a barbecue or, whatever way that you want to enjoy cannabis, on a hike or however you want to leverage cannabis for your experiences. It's great to do it together, right?
I will say the number one right now are the beverages and also sleep, insomnia. Everyone has insomnia.
Oh yeah, I do for sure.
Yeah. I mean, with all the news and everything going on, it'll definitely stress you out and keep you up at night, right? Especially if you're paying attention to all the latest news going on over in Europe right now, right? So, as far as the values that are important to you as a business, like what are those values that you want to instill in your business, and how are they reflected in the experience that you're providing to women and to the families?
Yeah, this one's actually one of my favorites because Ona was truly built by me and my brother. So there's really family at the core, and you feel that all the way through. Our employees become family, and then our clients become our family. So you feel that just about all the way in an entire circle. But really, the experience, I would say, it's like our excellence in service. I know that the bio I gave you was a little bit old, and we now have 7 awards for excellence in service today. Yeah, one will be released in 2 days. It's the Marin IJ. So yeah, you really feel that in service. And we always say the client is always right, no matter what.
Love that.
We also, most dispensaries don't do this, but back to my Nordstrom's comment, if somebody buys something from Ona and they're not happy with it, we'll take it back. We'll say, let's try this again. Cannabis is not one size fits all. Let's see what we can get to you that will feel good. So we might be kind of losing money, but I think of it as like a marketing strategy. So that service really shows in that way of like, we want to make sure you're getting what you want. You're going to stay loyal to us, and they're going to continue coming back. And so that's probably one of my favorite parts of it.
Yeah, and that's not common in cannabis, right? Because you're not going to be able to get money back from the brand on that. So you take a loss as a business owner, right?
Yep, and we have to put in this like Geica box. You can't just like dispose of it. It goes through a whole procedure of kind of like a kickback, or like it's like a bad product.
Yeah, and that really reminds me of Zappos and how they scaled, right? They're not the same business model as you, but they're doing e-commerce, and they took that same approach of putting the customer first. They're always right. Mm-hmm. And if the customer is not happy, then there's no loss to them in returning the product. So kudos to you to kind of follow in that same model and providing that same experience to your customers.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Jamie, what inspired you to create your brand?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, a couple of brands. So hello, everyone again. So I'm probably best known for my cannabis dining events and wine and weed experiences here throughout California. And that was really due to my work at the Herb Som. So I launched my blog and lifestyle brand, the Herb Som, back in 2017, and really focused on the culinary side to cannabis. Okay. And so at first I was just writing about different cannabis chefs, different edible producers, and really kind of exploring the ins and outs of, cannabis and food and cannabis and beverages. Yeah. And so during this time as well, I wrote 2 books. And so Cannabis Drinks is my newest book, but I also wrote The Ultimate Guide to CBD. Both of these books really incorporate recipes and just really good lifestyle guides that help you use cannabis in general. So while I was writing my Cannabis Drinks book, I fell in love with cannabis drinks. And I actually come from a long history of working in the wine industry. So, coming from the beverage side of the world and then learning about cannabis drinks and how, this category has really taken off in the last few years. When I started my blog, cannabis drinks really weren't a thing in 2017. I think like in 2018, 2019, we started to see more brands come online. And now in 2022, there's just such an amazing spread of all types of beverages. And I think when I was thinking about cannabis drinks, in the back of my head, I was like, I would love to have my own cannabis drink beverage. Yeah. And coming from wine, of course, it makes sense for me to create a cannabis infused wine. So at that point, I met some amazing business partners, and we launched my brand Urbasi, which is a cannabis infused sparkling wine. It's non-alcoholic, which is pretty great. And we launched with a sparkling rosé that really does drink like a wine. And so that is something that I really wanted to bring into the space. And it's been an amazing journey since. And I actually launched with Ona Life in December. So we are a very brand new brand, but things have been going quite well. So I think just like the inspiration behind my brand was my love for wine and really kind of bringing this concept to life of celebrating the flower and the vine. And the name Urbasi actually means herbaceous in French, which is a term we use in the wine industry to describe herbal notes in wine.
I love the story behind, the curation of this product. And it's, I'd love to try it. I know that my sisters up there in Northern California would love it as well. So
yeah, available at Ona Life.
You can deliver it to her, Guillermo.
Wonderful. And you mentioned that you launched through Ona. Can you give me a little insight into what that looked like?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I was thinking about launch partners, well, Nurit and I have known each other for the past several years.
Yeah.
And like I live in Marin County, Nurit's in Marin County as well. But just thinking about this type of beverage, I think it does so well in Northern California as it is. We're so used to beautiful wine products.
Yeah.
And I just felt like the consumer base was the right place for this product. And Nurit and Aviv were so kind to take me on and help me launch this product. And so I think we had a very successful launch. It was right before Christmas time, and we had a launch event at a holiday market down in Mill Valley, and we've done a few pop-ups since then. So I think we've done a really great job at co-marketing and co-advertising, and we've done a lot of things together since the launch.
Yeah. And I'm assuming the product is for women, right?
Well, as you can see, it's very pink
Yeah.
and floral, but men actually enjoy this product as well. And so when I used to work in the wine industry, we'd see a lot of men drink rosé.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a product for both, but of course it does probably skew a little bit more female just because of our flowery pink packaging. But yeah, if you love rosé, I think anyone who loves rosé will like this product.
It's a fabulous product, and there really wasn't anything like it on the market, but truly, like, when you taste it, you're just blown away, because you know, beverages can be a little hard to make, and Jamie just picked the most spectacular grapes to make this infusion, and it's something so easy to stand by, and it's so easy to sell as soon as we get somebody to just have that little taste. And she was smart enough to do non-medicated options as well, so we can do these like pop-up events at yoga studios, and there's no issue with people trying it, which is great.
And Jamie, can you touch on that a little bit more? The curation of the product. Nurit mentioned that there's grapes inside this. Like, what was the whole process for actually creating this product?
Yeah, well, it's been super fascinating to work on, because I do come from the traditional wine industry. Yeah. And never in my life did I think I'd be working with non-alcoholic wines, but it's actually a super fascinating product. So what we do is I found a beautiful winery, and we bought our first lot down from the Central Coast of California, where I actually studied wine and viticulture at Cal Poly. So it's a very near and dear place to my heart to source wine from. So we found an incredible rosé lot that was a Grenache Mourvedre Cinsault blend. So very like south of France. It almost tastes like a Provence wine, a sparkling wine, if you will. And the curation of this really comes down to working with some key partners to make this a cannabis-infused beverage. So one thing that's really important about this specific product is you have to use non-alcoholic wine. So the first step is you buy the wine lot from a winery, and then you have to dealkalize the wine, which is an incredible, it's just super fascinating how they do this. And really, you're running wine through almost like a 3-story tall, it almost looks like a distiller. You're actually doing the opposite of pulling the alcohol out. And I work with a company called BevZero up in Santa Rosa, and they have this incredible technology that actually allows us to do this while really preserving the wine. So at the end of the day, if you're using a very high quality wine lot, your dealkalized wine is going to taste delicious. Yeah. And so by working with BevZero, I also work with a company called Vertosa, which crafts the cannabis emulsions that are in the drink to make it cannabis infused. And they, I think, by far have an amazing selection of emulsions. And the one I chose was very neutral. So when you're enjoying our products at Bossy, you're really kind of enjoying more of the wine characteristics. You're not like taking a sip out of your wine glass and getting blown away by very expressive cannabis notes. It really does drink and taste like a wine, which was important to me. So there's many things that go into a cannabis beverage, but I think with a cannabis infused wine, the 2 most important things are that dealkalized wine and then the cannabis emulsions that you're working with.
Wow, that's an impressive process, and kudos to you on creating such a unique product, and I'm excited to try it myself. So. Yeah. Well, let's talk about owning. Yeah. Well, let's talk about owning a business in cannabis as a woman. let's talk about your personal journey. What industries were you working in previously, and what inspired you to transition into the cannabis space? And let's start on your side, Nurit, since we know Jamie's background here.
Yeah, my background was very wide, I will say. It kind of like started my career in mortgages and did the whole subprime market. And when that crashed, I ended up working in post-production visual effects on feature films here in San Francisco, and really built a great resume. I was on Game of Thrones and Deadpool and San Andreas and the Ninja Turtles and all these like really cool films, but I truly had no passion for them. I was just kind of there because I was good at coordinating. Yeah. And so, in 2014, when Colorado legalized, I was like, California's next. Like, I know California's next. I want to get into this. And at that time, Women Grow was like a huge networking event for women in cannabis. So doing my online searches, I decided to go to one of the events. And I end up meeting these two amazing ladies, Amanda and Shabnan. They own Brandon Branch. And so they are attorneys in the cannabis industry. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Like, I'm so nervous to get into this industry. Like, I don't want to get arrested, come from a great background. And so they hired me on the spot. Shabnan was like, you kind of look like my little sister. You could come to the events and then I don't have to go to the events. And so we like built this bond really quickly. And the next day I quit my job. I started working for them. And since they were IP lawyers, I really got to see all the new brands that were coming in, right? So at this point, you're kind of like seeing the phase of like old weed to new weed coming in with the beautiful package. Kikoko had just launched, like Kiva was launching. It was like a very exciting time. And through that, I really was like kind of taking notes of like, yeah, when I build my business, I want it to represent these brands that are like the new, beautifully packaged cannabis products. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember meeting you way back when, I think probably 2015, 2016, when I was just getting started as well.
Yeah.
Just doing my own research and getting involved in the community. And I believe we met in San Francisco sometime.
I think we had like a conference in San Francisco, if I remember it right, like kind of by the Palace of Fine Arts or something.
Yeah, that's it.
Right?
Yeah.
Back then too, we had to lobby a lot. We didn't really know where the industry was taking us. So, we all had collectives, but we heard legalizations like looming ahead. So I actually started an association called the Marin County Couriers Association to start lobbying for delivery companies. So I was doing that up and down Marin to each city until the city of San Rafael was like, okay, let's do a pilot program. So that was my in into getting a license.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Anything that you'd like to add as far as your journey into cannabis, Jamie?
Well, as I mentioned before, so I come from a long history of working in the wine industry, but my wine career actually began when I started studying at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So I started studying wine at the very young age of 18. And it was just such an amazing journey. And during college too, I had the opportunity to travel abroad. So I studied in France, Italy, Switzerland, and Australia to learn about wine. And it really helped me kind of learn about the international wine business. And so after college, I went and worked at Jackson Family Wines, specifically worked with Kendall Jackson, which was a very big brand to learn on, which was exciting. After I went from KJ, I worked at the Napa Valley Grape Grower, so did some nonprofit work. And then I think what really kind of started my entrepreneurial spirit was I actually was brought on the team to launch a tasting room in San Francisco called Jack's Vineyards. So at that time, it was just myself and the CEO, and we basically built a tasting room from the ground up. And I was wearing so many hats during that time. So I was running the tasting room, I was doing events, I had a full team, and it just really gave me the opportunity to learn how to run a business. And I thought it was just incredibly exciting to do that, especially in the heart of San Francisco. But I stayed there for a couple of years, then went into wine PR and worked at Folio Fine Wine Partners. And so at that time, we had an international portfolio. So I worked on the public relations for many wineries all around the world, also worked with the Mondavi family. So it was a very good career in the wine industry. But coming into cannabis, I think it just was one of the most fulfilling decisions that I decided to do. And as Nurit mentioned, so when I was kind of exploring the cannabis space, I also went to many women grow meetings. And I thought it was just so refreshing to see a room full of women founders, female CEOs, which coming from the wine industry is very male dominated. So coming into cannabis, I was like, oh my gosh, I could maybe have my own business in this space. And so in 2017, it just, everything kind of fell in line, and I decided to pursue the herb som. And I think, the more I learned about cannabis, there are so many similarities between wine and cannabis, first of all, but the ways in which cannabis just works with our internal systems really led to my career change. And I think this plant is truly incredible, and it can help change the world.
I agree.
I agree. Too.
Yeah. And that's really the reason I got in. I had a family friend that was diagnosed with a brain tumor and given a year to live. And she used, at that time was Rick Simpson oil, going to Emerald Cup and really doing her own research, using that in combination with, going vegan and also chemotherapy. And she's still with us today, and she's running a dispensary. So that was like,
oh wow,
the reason that I got into. That's the reason I got in the space. Like seriously, before it was like hip hop and cannabis and culture, but it wasn't as seriously on the, on the medicinal benefits, right? And that just really opened up my eyes, and I haven't looked back since, right?
Yeah, I have to agree with that statement. You as somebody who sells it to so many different clients for so many different needs, you really see how it has this 360. From clearly the medical, from epilepsy, depression, anxiety, sleep, whatever it might be, to the recreational side, and you just see the benefits of it are unlimited. It's endless. Yeah.
And then Jamie kind of hit on your point as far as women in leadership positions in cannabis. Studies have shown that companies with women in these positions do better and perform better overall. And I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. Like, what qualities do you think women bring to the table, that help elevate the business?
Yeah. Well, one thing straight off the top of my head, which I think is really important in cannabis, is women, we tend to support each other, and we really like to collaborate and communicate very well. And so when I first started in this space, I think, the women was a big part of that, but it was just amazing because so many people wanted to collaborate, to take me under their wing and teach me about the cannabis space. And even cannabis chefs, Corinne Carroll, who's my dear friend, she taught me so much about culinary cannabis. So I think, I just think it's amazing that, especially in this space, that if we continue to support each other, and kind of be mentors to one another, I think that's what really makes women unique in this space. Absolutely.
I love that. Yeah.
I have to echo that, Jamie. You just kind of brought me down my line of clearly Amanda and Shabnam gave me that opportunity, but then as my career kept going, there was Amy Jenkins, who's a very well-known state lobbyist, that would teach me all the ins and outs in that regard. And then there was somebody in marketing and advertising. It was just this whole community just surrounded you and bubbled you and was we're going to support you and make this happen. And I don't feel like we see that much in other industries either. I think cannabis really has a true heart in it.
Yeah, the community is really important in cannabis. And even to this day, I have some incredible mentors and advisors. And I highly recommend for anyone who's running a cannabis business to surround yourself with some really solid advisors that can help you navigate this crazy, crazy world and this crazy industry, because it is a very tough industry.
Yeah, and you touched on a great point. That's mentorship, right? It's incredibly valuable, for anyone in business. Do you have any mentors in the space or suggestions for associations, that other women in the industry can join?
Well, I think one industry that I'm involved with is the Women's Inclusion Network. And so that's a part of the ArcView family. Awesome. And so it's just a networking group specifically for women, which has been really great. But also with mentorship, I think what I did with my business is I well, networking is super key, but also I looked at businesses that I really looked up to. And Garden Society was a brand that I kind of fell in love with early on. And so Erin Gore, she's the CEO and founder of Garden Society. So she is an advisor of mine now, and she has just been so helpful in so many ways. So I think it's really kind of identifying a brand you really love and someone you really look up to, and just talking with them, network with them, and see if they can help.
Ask them to join on the webinar and pick their brain, right?
Exactly.
Nurit, any thoughts on your side?
God, I mean, she totally nailed it.
You're still in her thunder.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally similar to what I did with the research of Women Grow, and then once I met Amanda and Shabnan. But NCIA and CCIA were really big associations I used to be really heavily involved in. I hate to say it, but after getting my license, I kind of had to like hone down on the business and like kind of step back from all the conferences and networks. Yeah. But also Hall of Flowers is a great conference to go to meet different people within the industry.
Agreed. Hall of Flowers has been great for us as well, reaching retailers and brands within the cannabis space. It's been such just nice to see the evolution of events, going to the first one in Santa Rosa to where it is now. It's like a whole nother level.
Totally. And like, hey, we get to go to Palm Springs. Yeah. One thing that also was very helpful is now we're kind of coming out of this COVID bubble where we are now going to events again. Yep. So anytime there was an event opportunity, I would go to that event and just meet people and try to network. And so I think if you're looking at a cannabis dinner or cannabis pop-up or happy hour, like definitely get out there and go and just try to network, because that was something that was so key when I first launched my business.
Is it me, or does cannabis have more events per number of people in the industry compared to any other industry, right?
Before COVID, there were so many events. I was actually hosting a ton of events as well, almost one every month, it seemed like. So, but yeah, it's a great place to meet people for sure.
Definitely. And just to do a little plug in, I'm hosting an herbal happy hour at Shack 15 on March 3rd with our Tet, which is another beverage company. So ping me if you want to come.
You can. Where would they see that event details?
I have to get the link. It's still being created because it was kind of like a little bit of a last minute thing coming along. But this beautiful place called Shack 15, it's above the Ferry Building. They've been very open to the cannabis industry and helping us kind of like come back and as a whole, which I think is really key after COVID. We've as Jamie said, we've lost a lot of those events.
Yeah. And we're excited to get them back, right? We're getting tired of being behind the screen here on Zoom all day. I want to get in person. I want to try these drinks. I want to hang with you, and spend some time with you in person. So I get it. We're all yearning for it. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of switching gears here. According to Brightfield Group, women cannabis users make up 59% of new users and tend to be younger and heavier consumers than men. With that being said, do you think cannabis brands are doing a good job of marketing to women? What forms of content or brand voice do you find speak to the female audience? And I'll kind of leave that open to you, Nurit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we're seeing a lot of female-focused brands coming out. Like, Jamie's number one over here. But really the marketing it's so easy to understand the marketing that's coming across right now. You're seeing calm, you're seeing sleep, you're seeing bliss. It really just it's so easy to understand what these products are trying to do for you. And then they're also bringing it to us in this health and wellness aspect. It's not right. It's like you want to be uplifted. You want to feel balanced. They're really hitting all the key points of what females are kind of looking for, especially the majority of these women are moms who are probably working. And where do they find their balance? And where do they kind of find their zen in the middle of the day? Oh, maybe it's with a Moroccan mint, a little 2.5, which we like to call our mommy mints. So I think brands are doing a really spectacular job with it. Our marketing efforts are kind of interesting. Like we do a lot of old school marketing in terms of like print ads and magazines. So Marin Magazine is one of our huge go-tos, the same with Marin Living. And we know that that market really is showing to women. So a lot of our ads are showing that this is for you guys, like have, you know, it's going to be great.
Perfect.
I love that. Yeah.
Great answer.
I was waiting for you, Jamie.
one thing to add too is, you know, as we look across the United States, I think it's time we squash the stigmas and the age-old stereotypes. Like women like weed too.
Yep.
And I mean, there is such a big opportunity to market to women. And I think now we're seeing brands that are specifically focused on women, which really wasn't the case several years ago. And so I think there is a huge opportunity to speak to this space. And year after year, female consumers are doubling, tripling, and they're now outpacing men coming into the cannabis industry. So it's just a really fascinating category to keep your eye on. And I think it's super important to keep marketing and selling cannabis products to women.
Yeah, Cosmic Views Viva La Vie. I feel like that was one of the first ones that was really about, like, I hate to say it, but like vagina health. And it was such a like groundbreaking move to see this product come in to talk about something so focused on women.
Yeah, and Kikoko and Garden Society, again, we'll bring them up because they were really probably the first brands that I noticed that were very targeted towards women. So yeah, they've done an incredible job.
Yeah, absolutely. Another random one, I don't know if you've heard of it, but Hello Again, they're actually vaginal suppositories, which has been helping with endometriosis to like back pains, cramping, again, like just like straight on that target.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of products that are available, and Joanne is posting some of those in the chat here.
Yeah. I see her.
Oh yeah, Quim. Love Quim. How can I can't believe I didn't mention Quim. Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, on our side, when we have a programmatic advertising tool, and we can segment, you know, people by gender, by age, demographics. What are the different ways or different female cannabis consumer archetypes that you look at and that you market to differently? Like what type of personas, you know, Joanne mentioned baby boomers and senior wellness. Like what are the other types of women that you would market to, and do you have different messaging for them?
Over at Ona, I would say our messaging is pretty similar, and something I didn't really mention earlier about like the experience with Ona, you're dealing with a lot of phone conversations. Our concierge is ready on call to have that conversation with you, whether it's a 5-minute conversation or a 45-minute conversation. You're asking all the questions under the moon, right? So I will say, yes, our baby boomers and seniors are having a little bit longer of a conversation, a little bit more in depth, which we love. We do a lot of, you know, for the seniors when they're so not used to this like pre-packaged cannabis experience and not really knowing their, what their dosing might be. We really get them along on doing, write a journal, like write it down, see how you felt that night, and kind of like inching them into feeling comfortable with it, and definitely doing the start low and slow and then gradually working your way up. I feel like that kind of goes, it's universal, right? Because it is not one size fits all. We don't know what might work for me is not going to work for Jamie. But yeah, I feel like the marketing actually kind of stays the same between, you know, all ages and actually all genders as well. Okay.
No, yeah. I'm just trying to think of, you know, we have the business professional, right? Someone making, you know, making over 150K or more. They're you know, working late hours, might need cannabis for sleep. And then you have maybe the wellness, you know, archetype where it's more for smoking to enhance their yoga session or their hiking session or whatever it might be. So there's like different ways that people use it for based on income. But I think that I mean, Joanne just posted in here too, is like the products are geared toward women are higher end. Do you think that's true?
I think, yeah, I do think that is true.
Okay.
But I also can say that like anybody can use the same gummy, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, it might be here's what I'll say. I think everyone has a different consumption preference, and depending on their preference, they're going to get pushed into a certain kind of like product section, right? So that's how we start. It's like the conversation is like, okay, you're trying to do one thing. Are you willing to smoke? Are you willing to take an edible? And then it breaks it down from there. But women do want a higher end product, but at the same time, our whole menu is high end, and we really sell to everyone.
And I think just to add on, before even selling a cannabis product, it's just important and to understand like why that consumer wants to use cannabis in the first place, because some people are coming to cannabis in very different ways. So some people want to use it for health and wellness. Some people are using cannabis for like more lifestyle purposes or for more like recreational purposes. And then we have like the canna curious who are coming in, just kind of exploring the space. So I think once you kind of identify why the consumer wants to use cannabis, then you can go further into targeting kind of like that niche market and maybe identifying, specific age groups. And I do think, as Nurit mentioned, maybe with women, it's, with age groups, it's maybe not as targeted, but I think with like baby boomers, like maybe a 50-year-old woman might want something different than a 20-year-old. So I think it's just important to kind of identify that niche category and kind of dig deeper from there. And with my herb som work, so like the niche category I've really focused on is culinary cannabis. So I think once you can identify something that really speaks to your audience, like that will make your marketing pretty successful.
I totally agree with that. I will say I was on phones yesterday at Ona, and this, senior lady's on the phone with me. She's like, do you have any of that hash infused, live resin infused pre-rolls? And I was like, what? Like, it caught me like so off guard, And we had a couple, but she like wanted more. And it was something that like really caught me off guard. You just like, I was like, wow, you just never know what somebody's into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like she has a lot of experience and knowledge in the cannabis space and is looking for something specific.
Yeah.
And then, with the Herba C and that product, is it, it's focused on, people that are trying to replace, like looking for a alcohol alternative, right? I mean, that's one of the markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, with this specific drink is cannabis beverages are a perfect alternative to alcohol, as you mentioned. And so what we're kind of seeing with this product specifically is people are coming into cannabis beverages looking for something that maybe will replace that glass of wine they have every night, and that won't give them a hangover the next day. But we're also seeing a lot of just curious consumers in general trying cannabis drinks. So this is like a new category. People are curious to see what the buzz is about. And I think with our packaging too, so we actually were very, we wanted to launch in cans, which is different than a lot of the cannabis wine brands that are out there now. And the reason why we wanted to do this was to make it very approachable for all types of consumers to buy. And so we released it in single cans. And so it's not going to break the bank for you to go out, get a single can and taste it versus buying like a 750 milliliter bottle, which could be $50 or more. And so we really wanted to make it approachable, fun. It's in a can. So a lot of rosés that are in a can, it's just an easy way to consume. You can put it in your bag, take it to the beach. Yep. So we wanted to make it an elevated brand, but also very approachable for many types of consumers.
Yeah. And the conversation I had with Warren last month is, he was always talking about, how beverages can help us normalize cannabis socially, right? You can't, if you're smoking a joint, people are they're going to know your business. They're going to smell it. You're walking around the street, like they know what you're up to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable maybe lighting up a joint at a party, but they would feel so much more comfortable bringing a 4-pack of beverages into a social experience. And I think something that's just really exciting about the cannabis drink space in general is we have a lot of low dose beverages. Yeah. And so you can actually, we call them sessionable beverages. You can actually have more than one in a sitting, which kind of gives you that same effect as when you're drinking like a glass of wine or a beer and with your friends, you're kind of having that social, sessionable experience altogether. So I think it really is kind of changing the way we think about cannabis, especially consuming it in public social settings.
Yeah, and that's something that, when I was just joining the industry and learning, about how people interact with cannabis, one of the requests that I heard like right in the beginning is like, what's a beer equivalent? What's a drink equivalent?
Yeah.
Because there was all these like 100 milligram edibles back then, like like in the early 2000s, and like people were having, they were consuming too much and they were having bad experiences. So that's something that I heard all the time is like, what is a drink equivalent? Like, I want to have 2 beers, I want to feel a buzz, but I don't want to get out of control. Right?
Well, that was exactly something when Jamie came to me. I was like, what's your ratio gonna be? And when she came with the 5 to 5, I was like, oh my God, perfect. Because that one really keeps you uplifted and balanced, and you're not feeling tired, nor are you feeling anxiety. It's like that like right in the middle type of feel, which like she said, you can have more than one and you can be social with it and just have it out with the barbecue while everyone else is drinking their beers.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is, like, we have the power to create these beverages with multiple cannabinoids, and cannabinoids work better together. So it makes sense to have a beverage and incorporate, CBD, THC, there's Delta 8, some drinks have Delta 8 in there, THCV. I mean, I've seen a lot of different cannabinoids now being used, which I think is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, somebody needs to come out with a THC beverage that's that like skinny girl vodka, skinny girl weed drink.
Yeah. I think Gem and Jane actually has a THCV dominant drink, and it's very nice. Yeah,
I'll have to try that. I haven't tried that one.
Yeah, it definitely gives you more of like a uplifted buzz, like you got a cup of coffee or something. So
no munchies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as far as the differences between marketing to women versus men, is there any subtle nuances that you found kind of speaking to women versus men, and how's that like reflected in your marketing? Is there any? We kind of touched on this right now, but it's
I think like with women, packaging and presentation really matters. As well as using just a lot of thoughtful detail and more like emotional cues versus men who are, they think like things more simple, but very kind of like design oriented. I think there's different ways you can approach both men and women. But for the most part, I think packaging is really important, but also a high quality product is important as well. So something that tastes good, gives good effects, and something that's reliable too is also important.
Yeah, definitely. I would say reliable is key. People definitely notice if they order, a pack of gummies and the next time they order it and it was like the dosing was totally off or totally different. That can definitely push them away. But I really believe it has to do with packaging. And then, a lot of people are very in tune with what they're ingesting. So if like canned as the agave, that really hits a certain like health conscious type of market that we're seeing. We definitely have a lot of like vegan products on the market. So yeah, I definitely think each person will really find what they're looking for as they're going through the menu.
Agreed. And before we have about 15 minutes left here, so I just want to make sure that the audience knows that they can ask questions if you want to use the Q&A feature in the bottom of Zoom or just the live chat like Joanne is. Any questions that you have, Joanne, that you'd like to ask Nurit or Jamie? Feel free to post them there. As far as like,
I worked for L'Oreal 40 years ago, and their slogan was "Because I'm worth it" and empowered women. Maybe. Oh yeah,
I remember. Yeah, that was a big marketing campaign. I remember that one.
I can't like say that there's many slogans in cannabis, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, there's not many slogans. I haven't really come across any, at least any that have like stuck in my head, like L'Oreal.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Ona's slogan is like couture cannabis delivered. So that like kind of gives that feeling of like you're gonna have this like couture experience straight to your door. But I'm trying to think of like other cannabis slogans.
Bossies celebrate the flower and the vine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just doing a quick Google search here, and yeah, there's no one that's really owning that, or that is, it's, for us, I don't know if it's a slogan, but we're connecting brands with consumers. It's providing that platform so you can connect. But there's, a lot of the kind of old evergreen slogans that are, we're trying to get rid of. Right.
We're also not really allowed to have commercials quite yet, right? So like you can't really have that little like, song in there.
Yeah, the jingles.
Yeah, the jingles. Did you guys see, who was it, Weed Maps that did that broccoli commercial that didn't to Super Bowl? I love when they, even though they know they're not going to get on air, but I love that they still push them out and get all that publicity around it. It's so cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when will we actually see someone on the Super Bowl? It's gonna, I actually wrote a LinkedIn post on that. It's gonna have to come after federal legalization.
So. I would assume so, but did you see the NFL donated like a couple $1 million to research? So I was like, that's a huge step,
And they also stopped testing their players, so
yeah,
that's another. And what as far as consuming content, do women consume content differently, or is there any like different marketing tactics? I know, Jamie, your experience in events and the tasting rooms, like how you actually went to market with Nurit, and like it's real more like in person, right? It's more community, like you said, supporting the community and so on. Like, is there any tactics that you found to be more effective, to reach the female audience?
I think social media and Instagram specifically has always been a huge thing that has helped my business, both in the Herb Somm and Herbossi. And there's many different tools that you can use with Instagram. So Instagram lives, like Nurit and I did an Instagram live when we launched the beverage back in December. Also like recipes has always been something that's been really key for everything that I've done with the Herb Somm, as well as Herbossi. We actually feature recipes on our Herbossi website. But I think like specifically for women, I feel like women do kind of like the DIY type things a little bit more. Okay. And so I think, especially when we were going through COVID, anything with like at home, like do it at home was something that was super key as well. But in terms of content, social media has been really key. Events, I think events are so important, and I'm happy we're kind of coming into the world where we can start hosting events again. And events really give us the opportunity to educate about cannabis in a live setting where people can ask questions. At my dinners, we had people coming and they'd be with their friends eating an infused meal. And it really kind of opens the door for this new kind of experience where you're not walking into a dispensary, you're coming into this dinner to learn about cannabis and enjoy a great meal with friends. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can think about content and a lot of different creative ways that we can actually execute it.
Yeah, the events, I'm so happy they came back, and I'm so happy that they came right when you launched, because I had really like immersed myself into this Marin community that I'm super grateful for, that always invite Ona to, whether it's like a marketplace at a surf shop or at the Country Mart, or, all these very like community events where you're really seeing your clientele like face to face, as Jamie said, with that education piece. But they're also allowing us to bring cannabis into, a setting that's normally not there. Rather, and like it's almost better than being a storefront dispensary, because your dispensaries are always like kind of further away or not like really set into a location where there's going to be families and whatnot. But since we're not actually selling and it's educating, you really are putting yourself in like the best position possible for those people.
And to have the opportunity to be at like not a traditional cannabis event.
Right.
So if you can go to like just a lifestyle event where people are selling other types of products besides cannabis, I think that's also super key, and which helped a lot with our launch. So
yeah, the experiential aspect of events. I know, I've consumed wine while, doing an hour, 2 hour kind of art workshop. That's always fun.
That's super fun. We'll need
Outdoor
to cannabis wine with the art. That would be really fun.
Yeah, out in California, Miami, they have it where you do like outdoor rooftop yoga, and it's infused. People are passing around a joint before.
Yeah.
Something like that. That I know, Nurit, you've done that. You've hosted those type of events in San Francisco.
Yeah, those are my favorite. There's so much fun. I gotta get a yoga event curated here soon. We've been doing a lot of like the outdoor like where we launched Jamie was it was called Holiday Fest, and it was like a bunch of like female owned makers from like candles to jewelry and purses, and there's this really cool way to incorporate it. But yeah, the cannabis retreats can be amazing. We did one at Geyser Peak Ranch a couple years back and brought the ladies up in a limo with farm to table dinner and like lavender hand wipes, like, very, very bougie.
Beautiful event.
Yeah, I love that.
Bring that one back for sure.
Elevate and flow. We got to bring volume 3 back.
Let's do it. And then, what excites you, most about the future of cannabis, especially for, females looking to join the industry?
Oh.
Crystal ball. What do you think? We have
the taxes to get lower.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really need that in California.
Yeah, it's got to happen eventually. I think every day we're seeing so many cool new things. I was just telling you guys before we got on the phone, but I haven't shared with the audience. There's this brand called Bohemian Chemist, and they're up in Mendocino, Philo area. And, you have this dispensary that's next to a wine tasting, that's next to a restaurant, and you're in this beautiful farmland. And it's like, I think the way they actually launched was to be a dispensary and a spa. So like, but COVID kind of crushed that. I think it'll come back, but you're really seeing these new developed, cannabis kind of like experiences and like all the lounges that are popping up. I know New Leaf is doing a lounge over on the Strip, which will be so cool. Like now you can, take some time in Vegas, but like go to this cannabis lounge. Like there's really just, it's going to be nonstop what they come up with. And it's really exciting.
I think from like a cannabis beverage point of view as well, I think like the on-premise opportunities is super exciting. So if we can see more cannabis cafes, I would love to see like cannabis beverage bars. I think there's just so much opportunity there. So yeah, anything that the lounges, I just think there's a lot of opportunity within like cannabis hospitality as well. Like as these new spaces are starting to develop, and tourism. So in like Sonoma County, cannabis tourism is a big focus. And with these new farm tours and farm to table experiences, I just think with like tourism and direct to consumer experiences, it's a very exciting time for cannabis.
Yeah, you actually just reminded me, I have a partnership with Hotel G in San Francisco. So when you check into their room, there's room service, and there's also, it's called Higher End, and it's like an own a menu made for delivery to room service.
That's amazing.
So like something like that was really cool to come up with.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Yeah. And then, like you said, normalizing cannabis use in cafes, in bars. Right now we're only seeing it at the cannabis events, right? Like I saw the infused drinks bar. There's a bunch of them all over Hall of Flowers, a lot of sponsorships of those type of events. But I can't wait to see that normalized on premise, as you suggested, Jamie.
Yeah, I'd love to see it too. And hopefully like some cannabis cocktail bars as well, and just making live drinks, live cuisine. I think the future is very bright for culinary cannabis in general too. So I know there's so many chefs all over the world that want to cook with cannabis and have cannabis restaurants. So I really hope we can make that a reality.
Wonderful. And then, how would you describe the feeling of the industry compared to others? I know, Jamie, you've been in wine, in cannabis. Like, how are they different?
Well, yeah.
I mean, we kind of covered a lot of that now, but yeah.
They're very different, but they're the same in many ways as well.
Yeah.
But I think one thing about cannabis that really, that I'm so thrilled to be here is just all the young like entrepreneurs in this space and like this energy especially here in the Bay Area, there's so many entrepreneurs, and I feel like we all work together. We want to support each other. And I just think like the community is something that's very special and unique in the cannabis space.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We were so lucky with the community. Like I remember going to those events and I felt like I was at home. I was like, I love these people. Like, and you know, it was like an artistic group of people. It wasn't, it was just like everything was so fun and inspiring and everyone was helping each other, like your network's my network type of thing. And, you know, we really started in the grassroots of it. So it's really cool to watch it flourish, but we do have to kind of like keep each other's backs while all these corporate guys and investors are coming in, because I do believe a little bit of the soul of our industry is getting sucked.
Yeah, and I know that. I know. I posted something on LinkedIn today about that. Is that we were at 37% of women holding executive positions, and now it's down to 22%. And that's only in a couple of years. So the influx of kind of mainstream companies, a lot of consolidation going on, has definitely reduced the diversity in the industry as a whole, right? So
absolutely, and it's just getting harder to survive the market. So you're seeing it's like a double kind of like sandwiched in reasons of happening all around.
Yeah. Well, before we log off here, Nurit, Jamie, if you'd like to share anything about your business, where they can find you, your social media, just so that our audience can connect with you after the session here.
Yeah, thank you. So Ona is based in Marin County, but we deliver to San Francisco, Sonoma, Napa, East Bay, and San Francisco, if I didn't already say that. And our website's super easy. It's just ona.life, and it's the same for our Instagram handle. Feel free to call us. I truly believe it's the best way to get a hold of us is to experience our customer service, and I promise you'll be hooked. Thank you.
And then for my information, you can find me at theherbsom.com, which is my blog, or herbossi.com, which is the cannabis infused wine URL. And then on social media, you can find me at the Herbsom. You can find more information about my books there, about recipes, infused beverages, all the above. And then Herbossi's handle is Herbossi Official on social media. I hope to see everyone out here in San Francisco, and stay tuned for more event announcements from both Nurit and myself. So we got something in the works.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to join us today. And for everyone that joined us, I did post the links here in the chat. So if you want to take a look at Nurit and Jamie's businesses, feel free. And once again, thank you again for sharing all your insights. Can't wait to do a follow-up and just share more with the community.
Thank you so much for having us.
And thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Nurit.
Cheers. Bye.